Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to talk a little bit about Windows 10 settings. Windows 10 settings can be gotten to from the Start menu, and then you start typing settings, and it should pop up. Now, the Windows 10 settings main window consists of 13 different categories of settings. I'm going to talk about some of them, not all of them, but one of the things I want to mention, I'm going to be pointing out in some of these settings, is how Windows 10 is becoming increasingly designed to work on different devices, not just desktop and laptops anymore, but also phones and tablets. And the whole continuum feature that you read about in Chapter 1, it will start to actually make sense, and you'll start to see how this interacts, how these different devices are able to interact using the same operating system. So first, if we go to the system category, we're going to see a bunch of different settings. And I'm going to talk about a few of them, but right away, right off the bat, if we look at the display settings, you'll notice that on my virtual machine, which is on my desktop computer, some of these settings are grayed out, meaning that they're not available, meaning that the hardware that I need for these settings to work does not exist on this computer. So the change brightness automatically when lighting changes, what that means is if you have a light sensor on your laptop or on your tablet, when you are out in bright light, the brightness and color changes to reflect that light. And then when you are in a darker environment, it's not quite as bright and the colors aren't as sharp. It actually dims itself down a little bit to adjust to whatever ambient lighting you have. So this is just one of the many examples that you're going to see where, depending on the type of device you are working with, you may or may not have these settings, but they will all be available. They'll all be there. So for example, if I had a Windows 10 or a Windows Phone, and I was using Continuum on the Windows Phone, if I opened up settings on the Windows Phone, this would be available because I actually have that, I would have that light sensor on the phone, okay? So I'm just going down a couple of these that I want to take note of. The power and sleep settings. The power and sleep settings allow us to do some very simple power settings, such as when should the screen go to sleep. If it's plugged in, it should go turn off after 10 minutes. Now, I don't have a laptop, so I don't have an option for battery. If I had a laptop, I'd have to make a settings for the battery. Notice also there are additional power settings. There are often going to be settings that if we click on, they're going to take us to control panels that have more granular and more administrative type controls that we would want to use. So in this case, we'd be able to create a power plan, which is something we'll talk about in a later chapter. Going down to storage, you'll see that gives you a brief overview of how full your hard drive is. It also has this thing called Storage Sense. Storage Sense allows us to have Windows automatically remove temporary files and things in the recycle bin after a set time. So if it's off, then no, you have to do it all yourself. If you turn it on at a certain time, at set times, Windows is going to go through the temporary files and it's going to remove older temporary files from browsing history and things like that. And then also things that have been left into the recycle bin for any length of time. It used to be in old Windows systems, the recycle bin would automatically clear out things that were 30 days old. Here, Storage Sense, you can actually set how they free up space. So again, you click on that link, it tells you how it's going to go about what it's going to do. And here's that 30 days I was talking about. If the file has been in the recycle bin for 30 days, it's gone. This actually used to cause trouble. When I was working as a consultant, I would come across people who would store things in the recycle bin because they didn't want their desktop cluttered up. So it was just another folder they would put things in. And then they would realize after a while, I'm missing something I put in there. And then they would come to me and they would say, I'm missing this file. And I would say, well, where is it? They said, well, it's my recycle bin. And I would ask them why they were storing things in a garbage can. And they didn't have a good answer for me. So this is a thing, though. It does happen. So if you have it on, if you have that setting on, Storage Sense on, it is going to do this for you. It's going to delete the temporary files. It's going to delete files in the recycle bin. And it also allows you to clean up immediately. The cleanup, this is going to run disk cleanup, which is an old tool that will go through and not only remove temporary files and recycling bin files, but also installer programs and other network files, network temp files that are stored on your computer. So that is settings. There's actually, if you want to take a look, there's a lot more information when you start clicking your way through all these different storage settings. Now, tablet mode isn't going to do me much good on my desktop, but if you are using a tablet, these settings will automatically decide what kind of hardware you're using. So for example, if you have a tablet that has a dock set up and you are using it just as a tablet, it will just automatically determine that this is a tablet, it's going to have a touchscreen and so on. But if you have hardware that has a keyboard and mouse plugged into it and you dock your tablet, it's going to notice that you have that, and it will then go into desktop mode instead of automatically setting it. You can select, specifically which one you want, or you can let it choose. That's all I'll talk about with the tablet mode. But there are a number of ways we can, not just in this settings, but in other settings where we can specify how we want tablets and phones to act using Windows 10. Now, multitasking is slightly different. This isn't quite what it sounds like. Multitasking is how it affects you having multiple things up on your screen. So, for example, the snap that we learned about in Chapter 1, where you can drag windows to one side or the other of the machine, and it will automatically size it for you. That kind of thing, how it works, where it works, things like that. Those are the settings that you can do here. Also, we handle virtual desktops. Again, something we've read about earlier. And you can set up how they look, whether you have a desktop only on the current window virtual desktop or whether you want to have it on all desktops. Okay. One last thing I'll mention here in settings is projecting to this PC. This is one of those settings that you have to have specific hardware to be able to deal with. Is a feature that allows you to project or mirror the contents from your tablet or your phone to your computer. Now, the problem is you have to have devices that support Miracast. Both your computer has to support it and the tablet that you're using has to support it. So that's it for home settings. As we work our way through here, we can see lots of different settings for different devices. So all the different things that you'll plug into your computer. This gives you some very basic settings that you can use. For the most part, though, if you want to do real configuration, you don't want to be just in settings. You'll want to be in control panels, which I'll get to in a different video. Same with network and internet. This gives you some very basic information about your internet. But one of the cool things that this does is this is a one-stop place to actually get information. It used to be you would have to dig into the network control panel and find stuff. Here I can select what type of internet I'm looking at, including if I have a device, if it's in airplane mode, data usage, things like that. So this is a nice little one-stop shop for all the different types of internet, or Ethernet, I should say, that I can, internet, Ethernet in this particular case, that I can have on my device. Personalization is basically what this machine is going to look like. Looking at it, colors, themes, start menu, things like that. If you want to remove your start menu, for example. Also, applications. This is where you can go to quickly install or uninstall apps, where you can set defaults and have optional features of Windows included. So apps and features, this is very much like the control panel, giving you options to add or remove a number of programs that you may have, plus giving you the ability to add additional features to Windows 10, which should be covered in your book, so I won't go over it here. Now, this accounts allows you to do some very basic work with accounts. In general, if we are going to have, more detailed, or if I want to be doing a lot of work with accounts, I'm not going to do this here. I'm going to do this somewhere else, and I'll show you that in another video. It'll be in the computer management plugin that I'll be doing this. But if you have very simple things about how you want to connect to the computer, how you want to sign in, and what accounts you're going to use, this is a simple place to go to get it. All in all, the settings are Control Panel Lite. This is where most people will do the most basic things to their computer. Finally, last two things I want to mention are the ease of access and the update and security. Ease of access has a bunch of features designed for people that may not be able to view or use the computer the way the average person can. For example, if they have any kind of vision issues, they have the option of having a magnifier. The magnifier allows the screen to be zoomed in, and then as you scroll around, it will move the screen so you can move yourself up and around in the same screen size, but having a magnified view, right? So, inverting colors, and this is part of this is a one of the exercises in the book. Inverting the colors allows you to truly invert black and white and things like that when you're magnifying. And I will hold off on the rest of these because that is part of your exercises and that'll be in your lab. Last thing I want to talk about is update and security. Again, this is not where all of the settings are, but this is where a good number of them are, and you can quickly get at things such as Windows Defender, which is your built-in malware detection suite. Activation, as you can see, it says I haven't activated Windows yet. That's because I was rooting around in the background of my machine and managed to remove my activation code. But it also has an ability to do simple backups. Backups are going to be covered in detail in a later chapter, but this is a simple place to add a drive or to basically get a backup and restore up and running. Okay, so that is it for settings for today. The next video, I'm going to be talking a little bit about computer management and what that tool is like. Essentially, settings is the first place to go to get basic information, and computer management is where we're going to be when we want to get more detailed, more granular information and control. Okay, have a good day.